But now that brings another point. With this dominating performance, now everybody's calling for Munguia and Canelo. My question that I ask to you, is this the right fight to make now? But in my opinion, no. I don't think he should be next for Canelo. And it's for two reasons. One, and the main one, there's no reason for Canelo to be fighting Jaime Munguia when David Benavidez is still right there. David Benavidez has earned the right to fight Canelo. There's no other question that needs to be asked about what fight should be next between those two. There just isn't. I don't care how exciting we see Jaime Munguia is and how much fun that fight would be. He with this win, while it's respectable, he has put himself in the running. Don't get me wrong, but he is nowhere in any frame of history, any frame that you want to try to gauge it, nowhere should he be in line to fight Canelo. None. It should be David Benavidez. That's it. It should be David Benavidez fighting Canelo next. Nobody else. Because both people have cleared out the entire division. Nobody else should be fighting. And yes, I know we got Canelo now looking like he's going to fight Jermell Charlo's brother, Jamal Charlo, the bigger of the Charlos, who's already a middleweight. And we saw him return against Jose Benavidez and absolutely whitewash him, looking, okay, he's fully back. He'll be moving up, if he does fight, he'll be moving up to 168 to go and fight Canelo for his undisputed title. That's what's being talked about. But even with that being talked about in a fight that I want to see, and the ramifications of what that would mean for Canelo's legacy, I don't want to see that, because I want to see David Benavidez versus Canelo Alvarez. Because David Benavidez has earned the right, more than anybody else in any division, to fight him. More than anybody. Even more than Terrence Crawford. Because David Benavidez has been in the same division and has cleaned out everybody else. Every other requisite legitimate contender or prospect to be that would be in line. Look at you fight Canelo. He has cleaned them out. Caleb Plant, Boo Boo Andre, mopped everybody. There's no reason why he shouldn't be in line as the first man to fight David Benavidez. That fight is the fight I want to see next. Nobody else. That's reason number one as to why Munguia shouldn't be in the running. And the second reason for why Munguia shouldn't fight Canelo Alvarez, he is not ready to fight him in the first place. He will get cold clocked in 6 against Canelo if they did in fact fight against each other. He will get cold clocked in 6. He will get knocked out by David Benavidez in 6 or 5 potentially. Because then that's more so Canelo versus Munguia is counterpuncher versus outright offense. Munguia versus David Benavidez is outright offense versus outright offense. And chin versus chin. And Munguia is not winning that battle. Oh no, he's not. Especially what I saw in this fight against John Ryder. Why do I say that? Well, let's break it down. When it comes to, we'll start with Canelo. Munguia versus Canelo is a fight that he will lose in between 6 and 8 rounds, get knocked out. Or technically stopped by the ref. Because he still is, while he's so offensively centric, so many holes he has at Canelo's disposal to be counterpunched and caught consistently. What we saw in John Ryder in that fight, while Munguia won the whole fight. Remember, don't let the flash of the offense fool you. He was getting countered consistently for the majority of that fight. Now, John Ryder took some time for him to start landing clean. But once he got the timing right, he was countering Munguia a lot. I believe it's a southpaw. I believe he's southpaw. So he was countering him with that left hook or the right hook. When Munguia would come on the inside, on the ropes. And Munguia was consistently getting caught. He was. Now, he walked through it and just kept on wailing away because his chin is that good. And, again, respect to John Ryder because John Ryder is legitimately strong. And his offense and style was just too much for Ryder to actually be able to capitulate and adapt. But that doesn't change the fact that in that fight, he got caught a lot by counter hooks from John Ryder. Small windows that kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more John Ryder was able to get the timing right, and he was catching him. Now you go up against the best counter puncher in super middleweight. One of the biggest styles is literally catch and shoot. And with the way that Munguia throws his shots, while it is powerful, and there's still some technique that isn't as refined. So it doesn't come out as just boom, quick, fast, sharp. There's a little bit of slugging in that style. It's not bad. I'm just saying what it is. There's a slugging style arc to his punches. And those types of arcs have the ability to be countered. When you don't throw with the requisite level of sharp, precise, technique-driven punches against Canelo, you will get caught. You will get countered. So look at James Kirkland. Look at Amir Khan. Look at Caleb Plant. And he's one of the sharper boxers, one of the more technical boxers in the division. Everybody that he faced got put out. And even though they were sharper punchers than Munguia, better technical punchers than Munguia, the offense wasn't as overwhelming, but in terms of the technique as how they throw, they were better. And we saw him deal with them all. We saw him get rid of them all. We saw him knock out the majority of them. Billy Joe Saunders, another technical boxer, shifty, fast in terms of his hand speed, and elusive. Sharper punches, a pot-shotting type scoring boxer. Doesn't have power, but he's got the technique and speed to be able to outpoint his opponents on a consistent basis. He was seen as a big contender to go against Canelo, and Canelo got him out of there. Broke him down and got him out. Literally broke his face and got him out of there. All these boxers are better punchers in terms of technique than Munguia. And with Munguia being such a slugging type fighter, I don't say that in a bad way. I'm saying that in his style and in the way that he punches. He is open, just like he did against John Ryder, to a bunch of counters. And John Ryder was catching him. And he's nowhere near the counter puncher, nor as powerful as Canelo is. There is no way that he is beating Canelo. There's none. It'll be an exciting fight. Absolutely. It'll be an exciting fight. But he will get broken down and most likely caught clean. And when he gets forced to back up against Canelo, if they did fight against each other, when he gets forced to back up against Canelo, and when he has to be the man to now be more defensive, that brings up a whole nother slew of problems, because as we saw in the fight with John Ryder, he can't fight in two styles at the same time. Just like I had a problem with Juggernaut Joe Joyce. He can't fight in two different styles at once. He can't be defensively sound while being offensively active. Nor can he be offensively active while being defensively sound. He can't do both. He's got, again, better defense when he does go into the offensive realm, but it's not to the same level that it needs to be if you want to fight against people like Canelo. It just isn't. We saw it in this fight with John Ryder. When he would go and fight John Ryder, when he wasn't being offensively minded, he wasn't throwing anything. That's one of the biggest reasons why John Ryder was able to get some success. Yes, to a degree, it was because Munguia was taking a round off. But even before that, or after that rather, when Munguia was getting back offensively, once he started getting caught with those counters by John Ryder more consistently and started being more defensively aware, he wasn't throwing anything. He was not. It would be a complete switch off from any offense that he wanted to actually incur. And then it would be a completely new switch back on, and a whole totally different fighter when he would get back into his offensive-minded ways. And because he can't fight in two styles at the same time, and can't fight defensively sound on all fronts while being his offensively minded self, when you switch gears like that at such a stark rate, such an abrupt rate against somebody like Canelo, oh, you're done. Because now that I know when you are and when you're not going to be aggressive, if you ever choose to be non-aggressive against Canelo, he will eat you alive. And so what is that going to also force? Munguia to be all-time offense. And what's that going to cause? Even with countering windows. And what is that going to cause him to do? Get knocked out. Because while his chin is great, again, it's good, as we saw against John Ryder, it's not up to the level to be able to take that many consistent counters against somebody like Canelo. Or rather, it hasn't shown that it can take that many consistent counters from somebody of the caliber of a Canelo and keep on trucking and going. That's a different kind of power, different kind of precision. That's a different kind of ruthless ability that Canelo has at his disposal that Munguia hasn't faced before. He's normally brought that type of intensity. He hasn't faced that, nor has he been in that type of moment. But strictly, forget the moment, strictly talking about the ring, what they do in the ring. You can talk about outside environment effects all day long, no doubt about it. It is a real thing. But in terms of the core aspect of what we are talking about, the real fight, he's not ready. And when it comes to David Benavidez, that might be even more dangerous than Canelo. Because with David Benavidez, he won't let you. He won't wait to see if you're going to be defensive or offensive. He will just wait, just like he did against Boo Andre, just like he did against Caleb Plant. Wait you out to find your style. And then once he says, okay, it's my turn, then you have no choice but to be either all out offense or shell up. There's no in between. And if you get forced to shell up into the Jaime Munguia, you have no chance at beating him. And if you get forced into a firefight with David Benavidez, if you're Jaime Munguia, you're going to get beat up. You're going to look like every other opponent. You're going to look like Demetrius Andre. You're going to look like Caleb Plant. You're going to look like Morrell. You're going to look like every single legitimate contender that David Benavidez has ever faced. And you are going to be stopped. Your corner is going to stop. You're not going to get knocked out. Your corner is going to stop the fight. You will have to take a year off. Because right now, if you fought those two, you are not ready. You're not. In terms of a talent perspective. I'm not saying he's not good. No. I'm saying there are levels to this. And in terms of both, have you earned your right to fight them? And has your ability shown that you can compete with them? Both of those are a no, in my estimation. Now, that doesn't change that I want to see the fight happen. We want to see the best fight, the best. We want to see prospects with tenures and up-and-comers and both veteran fighters who have shown, okay, they are something different from the rest of the crop, going face off against each other. So from that standpoint, yes, of course, I want to see the fight. But we're talking about in the nature of that fight, if it is indeed made, one, he shouldn't have first crack at Canelo. If anything, the more deserved fight would be against David Benavidez. And those two, whoever wins, goes and fights Canelo. Because Canelo is the prize. That's just the truth. He is the face of boxing. And just as important, he is the undisputed champion. If not more important, because we value belts over here, he is the undisputed champion. There is nobody else that has a belt in that division except for him. He is the only guy that you must go through to be seen as a legitimate champion in this division. There is nobody else. All roads lead through into him. So since that's the case, he has to be the only man on everybody's mind. But to earn that right, have you done enough? And with Munguia, like I said before, he's put his name in the running. He should be there, but he shouldn't have first crack. And if anything, it should be the fight between him and David Benavidez. If that fight does get made, that should be the definitive factor. The definitive fight. For whoever wins this, they fight Canelo. And Canelo is it. That's it. That's it. That cements for everybody's mind who is indeed the best super middleweight in the world. Again, right now it is Canelo. But people are saying David Benavidez will beat him. People are now saying that Jaime Munguia is the ipso facto X factor in He can throw a wrench in everybody's system. Well, if that's the case, then it's now come down to the final three. That's it. One is the ultimate definitive fight in Canelo. The final fight to decide who fights him, if it doesn't just beat David Benavidez outright, Munguia versus Benavidez. And then after that, winner fights Canelo. And then after that, win, lose, or draw, whatever happens in that fight, then we see Canelo fight other people. If he wins, okay, he fights Jamal or Terrence Crawford. Again, this is my perfect world. I know, like I said, Jamal Charlo's looking to fight Canelo now, next. That's what's being speculated. Not saying it's set in stone as of this recording. But it should be, in the best case scenario, Canelo versus winner of Benavidez versus Munguia. Or, even better, Canelo versus David Benavidez outright. And then Munguia fights him afterwards. But either way, from that standpoint, he shouldn't have first crack. And from a talent perspective, he does not seem ready in my mind to put up the necessary fight against David Benavidez or Canelo Alvarez. He just doesn't. I don't see it. As good as he is, I don't see it. Because his style is both detrimental and dangerous for himself against both of these fighters. Specifically dangerous against David Benavidez and detrimental specifically against Canelo Alvarez. I don't think he can win any of those fights, though I want to see it happen. I don't think he's got the requisite necessary sharpness and technique to make those fights winnable. He'll get beat up by David Benavidez if they did fight. And he'll get countered to Kingdom Come if he fights against Canelo. Or stalked and broken down by both of them. So there's no, at this point in time, I don't see it. He loses both, but they will be entertaining fights. It'll be competitive. Don't get me wrong. But a competitive blowout is still a blowout. A competitive fight that's one-sided is still a one-sided fight. Doesn't mean it's not good. It just means that there's a clear level of stature between one and the other. And somebody's outclassing somebody, but somebody's also being game to fight and making this a legitimate war. But they're losing that war. But it's exciting to watch. It's a good fight. But one person's dominating the other. That's what I see if Munguia fights Canelo. Or if Munguia fights David Benavidez. He hasn't earned the right to fight Canelo yet. But he's earned the right to be in the running. But he shouldn't get first crack. And in terms of his talent, I don't see him being ready yet. I just don't.